Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the mystery storytelling podcast with a clairvoyant twist. We end every episode with Darcy answering a question from a listener about her psychic process. Whatever is going on in her head, I think it's so cool and astonishing. Trust me, you're going to have your own questions. So when you're encountering this entity and you're going to put the salt around the entity, you said you drew it to the middle of the room somehow.
Yeah, I don't know how I do that. I just know I tell them where to be.
And they follow suit.
Yeah.
And then you're able to literally pour salt around them as they are there.
And then I collect it, and I basically do a salt trail out of the house. So at the end of the day, the girl who owned the house would have to vacuum all that up.
Right.
I have heard since that the boy's good. There's been no incidences since then. And like I said, I think that was about 5 to 7 years ago.
Wow, way to go, Darcy. So when you came out of the room and you had that entity trapped in the salt trail with you and you greeted the dog, the entity was no longer a threat to the dog?
Nope, not a threat to the dog at all then.
But it was still there?
It was still there. It was in the little container that I had her bring up to me, because the salt originally is in the container. So she'll take the container, put the salt in it, and then I'll use that container. And then what I do is I take it home, and I normally flush it down the toilet.
Okay. Out into the sea goes the entity.
Yes, but if I'm close to a water source, like an ocean or a lake or a creek or something like that, I can do it there as well. But then what I do, if it's fresh water, I just dig a little hole and bring the fresh water over to the hole and put the salt in and then the water.
Wow. So I just want to make sure I get this because it's so interesting. When you're in the room and you've got the entity to come into some area where you can then encircle it in salt, then how do you get the entity from being encircled in salt into this little container?
I just sweep up the salt because that's what my granny taught me.
You sweep up the salt, and by doing so, you're sweeping up the molecules of the entity itself and putting it into the little container?
Oh, that's how my grandma taught me. So to me, that's how it works.
But it works for you.
It does. I mean, other people have, like if you've ever seen Ghostbusters, they have a container that they suck it into.
Yep.
There are times where you can just go around the room and move the entity to an opening and push them out the opening. I like the salt because the salt is purification.
Right. Okay. So then you can get the entity with the salt. You're using a little sweeper to literally sweep it up?
Oh, yeah. I carry a little broom set, like a little whisk and dustpan.
Right.
When I know I'm going out to work, I normally have all my paraphernalia with me.
Okay. So you've got your Ghostbusters gear bag.
Basically.
Wow. So you swept this horrible entity into this little container, and then you take that container with you, you're holding on to it, and you're still trailing salt?
Yeah, just a little salt, but I have already put the salt in my hand.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is just making sure that I'm not leaving any residue behind me.
Okay, and so you're not necessarily making a little Hansel and Gretel trail of salt.
No, it's to make sure you're not leaving any residue.
Right.
And everyone does it different.
Oh, okay. That's fascinating.
Everyone does it different. My brother does it different than me. He may feel that the entity doesn't have to leave, that he just needs to have a talk to it. I do believe there are some entities that need to stay where they are because that's where they feel safe.
Okay, but this one you felt when you said the word evil, and I'm sure you don't use that word lightly.
No, I don't, but there was just something about him that I felt he didn't belong in the room he was in, and better to take him out. And it turned out that he wasn't just visiting this little boy. There were several little boys on the block that he was visiting. So at the end of the day, it stopped him from visiting any of them.
Thank goodness. So like he was some really mean bully.
He could have been, or he could have just been You know, the ice cream man?
You mean he was going to take advantage of the little ones?
Well, that's the ice cream man.
Yeah, that's the ice cream man, exactly. Wow. Well, way to go, Darcy. That's fascinating. Thank you for that. I hope you don't mind us prying into your actual procedures.
No, because every time it's different. I never use probably the same procedure twice.
Oh, great. Cool. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.